Friends, pause for a moment and think about what you're actually seeing on your screen. Missiles streaking through the night sky, explosions lighting up military bases, and emergency meetings at the United Nations. It looks dramatic, it looks decisive, and it feels like the conflict has already reached its peak. But what if this is only the beginning? What if the airstrikes and retaliations we are watching right now are simply the opening chapter of a much larger geopolitical confrontation that hasn't fully revealed itself yet? Because something important happened today that many headlines barely mentioned. Two of the most powerful countries in the world, Russia and China, have finally begun to speak publicly about the war between the United States, Israel, and Iran. And when countries like Russia and China start shifting their tone, global strategists pay very close attention. Russia has condemned the strikes at the United Nations, calling them actions that threaten regional stability. China has urged de-escalation while simultaneously increasing its oil stockpiles at an unusually rapid pace. These responses might sound like routine diplomatic statements, but in the language of international politics, they carry deeper meaning. Imagine the possibility for a moment. A conflict that initially appeared to be a regional confrontation between Iran and its adversaries suddenly draws in two major global powers with their own strategic interests in the region. Russia is one of Iran's most important military partners, supplying air defense technology and coordinating on various security matters. China, meanwhile, is deeply tied to Iran economically and relies on Middle Eastern energy supplies to power its massive industrial economy. When both of these countries begin adjusting their posture at the same time, analysts around the world start asking the same question. Could this conflict expand beyond the Middle East? The stakes are not limited to the countries currently exchanging fire. The Persian Gulf is one of the most critical arteries of the global economy. A significant portion of the world's oil supply moves through this region every day. Any disruption, whether through military conflict, shipping restrictions, or political instability, can ripple across global markets. Energy prices rise, supply chains tighten, and governments everywhere begin calculating how long they can absorb the shock. This is why developments in the Middle East rarely remain confined to the Middle East. Earlier today, the United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session in New York to address the escalating crisis. During that meeting, Russia's ambassador, Vasily Nebenzia, delivered a strong statement criticizing the recent military strikes on Iranian territory. He described the actions as violations of international norms and warned that continued escalation could destabilize the broader region. Russia called for an immediate halt to hostilities and urged a diplomatic solution. Moscow also signaled that it would oppose any resolutions that it believes unfairly target Iran, while ignoring the role of other actors in the conflict. China's representative at the session adopted a more cautious tone, but still expressed serious concern. Beijing emphasized the importance of restraint and dialogue, urging all sides to avoid actions that could push the situation toward a wider war. Chinese diplomats highlighted the need to maintain stability in global energy markets and ensure the safe passage of commercial vessels through international waterways. That particular point was widely interpreted as a reference to the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow passageway through which a large share of the world's oil exports must travel. While China publicly calls for calm, economic data suggests that Beijing is quietly preparing for the possibility of prolonged instability. Analysts tracking shipping routes and oil purchases have reported increased activity around China's strategic petroleum reserves. Tankers carrying crude oil are being redirected, and additional supplies are being secured from various sources. Such moves are not unusual during periods of uncertainty, but the speed at which they are occurring has caught the attention of energy markets. So why are Russia and China speaking more openly now after several days of relative quiet? The answer lies in their broader strategic interests. Russia and Iran have developed close security ties over the years, particularly in areas involving military technology and defense cooperation. Iran has provided equipment and support that Russia has found useful in other conflicts, while Moscow has supplied Tehran with advanced defensive systems. A weakened Iran would reduce Russia's influence in the Middle East and potentially allow a greater Western presence in a region that Moscow views as strategically important. China's relationship with Iran is built primarily around economics. Iran holds vast energy reserves, and China has been one of its most significant customers despite international sanctions. The two countries have also signed agreements involving infrastructure development, transportation networks, and long-term trade cooperation. For Beijing, stability in Iran supports its broader vision of expanding trade routes across Eurasia and strengthening the Belt and Road Initiative. A prolonged conflict that damages Iran's economy or disrupts shipping lanes could complicate those plans. Because of these interests, both Russia and China are carefully balancing their responses. Publicly, they call for diplomacy and de-escalation, positioning themselves as voices for stability. Privately, they assess how the conflict might affect their strategic goals. Diplomatic language often hides deeper calculations. A statement urging restraint may also serve as a signal that certain outcomes would be unacceptable. The possibility of wider escalation worries many observers. If additional countries begin providing material support to one side or another, the conflict could transform into a complex proxy struggle. Modern warfare does not always involve confrontation between major powers. Instead, it can unfold through layers of alliances, economic pressure, cyber operations, and military assistance delivered behind the scenes. History offers several examples of how regional conflicts can draw in outside powers. During the Cold War, local wars often became arenas where global rivals competed indirectly. Today, the international system is again becoming more multipolar, meaning multiple major powers are asserting influence simultaneously. When crises erupt in strategic regions, their interests can collide in unpredictable ways. Energy markets are already reacting to the uncertainty. Oil prices rose noticeably during today's trading sessions as investors weighed the possibility of disruptions in supply. Financial markets across Europe and Asia showed signs of caution, with several indexes declining while commodities like gold attracted increased demand. Central banks and economic planners monitor these signals carefully because prolonged instability in energy markets can influence inflation, trade balances, and overall economic growth. At the same time, diplomatic efforts continue behind closed doors. Governments often maintain quiet communication channels even during tense confrontations. These back-channel discussions allow officials to clarify intentions, explore possible compromises, and prevent misunderstandings that could escalate the situation further. While public statements may appear confrontational, private diplomacy frequently works to manage risks and keep lines of communication open. Military planners across the region are also assessing potential scenarios. They analyze how the balance of power might shift if additional countries become involved or if certain strategic locations are threatened. Naval forces monitor shipping routes, air defenses track aerial activity, and intelligence agencies gather information about troop movements and logistical preparations. For ordinary people watching from around the world, the situation may feel distant yet strangely immediate. Events unfolding thousands of kilometers away can influence fuel prices, stock markets, and political debates at home. Globalization means that regional conflicts often carry economic and strategic consequences far beyond their geographic boundaries. The next stage of this crisis will depend on decisions made by multiple actors. Will diplomatic pressure succeed in slowing the pace of escalation? Will outside powers limit themselves to statements and economic adjustments, or will they move toward more active involvement? These are questions analysts are debating in think tanks, foreign ministries, and military headquarters around the world. What is clear is that the reactions of Russia and China signal that the conflict has entered a new phase of international attention. When major powers begin adjusting their positions, it indicates that the strategic environment may be shifting. Whether those shifts lead toward negotiations or further confrontation remains uncertain. As developments continue to unfold, observers will be watching several key indicators: the tone of future statements from Moscow and Beijing, movements in energy markets, and diplomatic initiatives at international organizations. Each of these signals can offer clues about the direction the crisis might take. For now, the world is entering a period of heightened uncertainty. Regional tensions, global energy concerns, and strategic rivalries are intersecting in ways that make predictions difficult. But understanding the interests and actions of the major players helps illuminate the broader picture. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Russia and China will limit their role to diplomacy, or could their involvement grow if the conflict continues? I read your perspectives. If you want to stay updated on the latest developments and deeper geopolitical analysis, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.